Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends where you're coming from. My name is Sam Lee. I'm the founder and CEO of Constreet Partners. Today, I'm very glad to be here. It's such a great pleasure speaking here at the Unisys We Connect event. Thank you for the organizer for having me. Today, I'm going to speak and share with you on the topics of asset tokenization opportunity for real estate. Constreet Partners is an award-winning AI-powered global decentralized investment banking group and a financial service and asset management firm for tokenized asset and digitized securities. We operate in 5 main business pillars. On the finance side, we offer token finance consultancy, digital asset management, and also media and community, and technology on asset tokenization and security digitization solution, and decentralized finance and DLT solution. So it's a combination of finance, media, and technology. We operate a global decentralized investment banking network across over 10 countries. We also are organizer of the largest online global investor roadshow, covering 20 countries in 10 languages. We also the organizer of the world first annual international awards for tokenized asset and digitalized securities. We just had our first year award last year. So moving to 2021, we will host the second year. Okay, so before we dive into real estate, I just want to give you a more bigger picture of the general tokenization opportunity. So what we call the $1 trillion asset tokenization opportunity. And also, before going into the details, I want to give you a quick overview of the blockchain, because there are still many confusion on the market, because many different terms and the different asset class and things like that, right? So blockchain is just an underlying technology protocol, right? I will compare to an invention of paper, right? So we can use paper to print dollar bills, we can print a share certificate, we can print a coupon, right? There's so many things we can print with a piece of paper. And so is blockchain. In the blockchain, I think we can look at it in two very distinct paths. First, on the left-hand side here is decentralized application, right? So this is in the field of IT. It meant to increase productivities of enterprise, right? If you look at what happened in 2017, a lot of the companies issuing tokens on top of decentralized application, and those are utility tokens. And the second path is actually what we are focusing today, is around the area of finance. It is the field of finance, such as corporate finance, capital market, and security trading. And the tokens we're issuing on top of this financial application is security tokens, right? And this is what we're talking today, is around the area of tokenized asset, digitized securities, and security tokens, right? What happened back in 2017 is because a lot of people, they're using utility tokens as a function of financial tools, such as fundraising, right? So it's crossing the line, so that create a lot of issue in terms of the compliance, the KYC requirement, and things like that. So just want you to understand all the asset real estate tokenization we are talking about. It belongs to the right-hand side. It's fully compliant securities. So some key points of digital assets. We are more referring to the real world asset, not about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, although there might be very interesting opportunity with the Bitcoin as well, but that's a separate topic. right? The digital securities we're talking about is about real-world assets. It's fully compliant derivative or securities in digitized format using distributed ledger technology or blockchain. The process of asset tokenization, right, is to tokenize the asset, digitize securities, and tokenize securities. And offering such investment product to the investor is the initial offering is called security token offering, right? And the secondary trading of such investment product usually happen in the licensed STO exchanges. So look at the bigger picture. This is a report that is done by the World Economic Forum. They forecast by 2027, the total market for tokenized assets exceed $24 trillion. So that's why we have the multi-trillion-dollar opportunity heading in the beginning, right? But I think the key is when we look at where we are here today, it's just right at the start, right? So if you ever worry or concern, you know, whether you will be late to the game, not at all. This is right at the beginning. And also, let's look at a bigger picture of where we are in terms of the whole tokenization space, right? So is this just something theoretical or actually happening, right? So as you can see here, even some of the big banks in US is doing it, right? Like Wells Fargo and JP Morgan, they're issuing their own coins now. You might still remember like JP Morgan a few years ago, they're quite against Bitcoin, right? Now, I think the market sentiment and perspective have changed. There's a lot of endorsement from major corporation and financial institutions, right? Looking further around the world, there are a lot of major institution, fund house, advisory firms. They are also issuing different types of digitized securities or tokenized assets, right? Including ranging from real estate to money market, bonds market, and different financial instruments. Also, not lacking of big mutual funds like such as Franklin Templeton, right? Fidelity, and this is very interesting. Some of you from the finance industry might know about Morningstar, right? They are actually one of the market leader for traditional for rating product of traditional debt, right? So they're rating different bonds product on the market. And earlier, last year, they just rolled out the first rating product for tokenized debt, right? So that's a big step and will actually fuel the industry. And if we look further, it's not lacking of example of even the government, bigger banks and financial institutions. They're all doing different type of activities around this space. This is a graph to give you another perspective. It's very interesting. Although, like if you look at the left-hand side, the total percentage, right, of digital asset in the total market in terms of market capitalization is very small, right? For example, like this is an older chart, right? I'm sure now with the Bitcoin price is way more than 227 billion, probably definitely over 300. But still, you know, is maybe like 1% of the total market, right? But if you look at the right-hand side, in terms of the trading volume in US dollar, it actually composed of close to 30%, maybe even more now as of today, of the annual turnover of the market trading volume, right? This is amazing, right? If you look at the ratio and give you another perspective from where we come from. We are based in Hong Kong. So as many of you may know, the Hong Kong stock market considered one of the top stock market in the world in terms of liquidity, right? And the diversity. So Now, daily trading volume of Bitcoin is actually 2 times of Hong Kong stock market trading volume, right? So that's a pretty interesting perspective. And if we look at the regulatory space, this is very interesting. It shows you throughout the world, which country, how are they doing in terms of the whole STO progress, right? As you can see here, we have seen a clear leader, which is United States, right? Some of you might remember, like back in the ICO days, US regulator, the SEC, is very against ICO, right? Even as of today, they're still going after suing different companies for illegal fundraising. But for STO, they're actually endorsing it, right? So if you think that US is the world leader of capital market, right, because of Wall Street and all the activities, which I think they are, if they see the future is around digital asset, right, and digitized securities, that really be quite interesting, right? And that's why they're so open and aggressive about it. And if we look further around the world, all these different jurisdictions, they are moving forward in their own pace, but also in a very positive direction. So the whole world is moving forward to digitized securities, asset tokenization. This is definitely the trend of the future. Okay, if we look at some of the recent news, right? SEC announced that the commercial bank already now legal be able to deal with stable coins, right? One of the earlier crypto exchange in US, Kraken, many of you have you know and might even use them. They actually now get a license to become a bank. Look closer in Hong Kong, we have issued the first STO exchange license. And there are a lot of news around the digital renminbi, right? Like backed by the China Central Bank. And also there's a recent news that one of the top Chinese banks are issuing tokenized bonds. And if we look further, now over 15 countries already have a defined regulatory framework for blockchain-based security tokens. So the world is ready, and the industry player are doing a lot of things. So the market is actually moving forward and developing faster than many of us realize, right? So what's going on is very hot. So what are the near-term opportunities and how we can help, right? These are the benefits of tokenized assets and digitized securities. I'm not planning to spend time to go through each of them. Basically, you can find all this online, right? If you search for the benefits of tokenization, right? But what I want to highlight here, it actually offers a lot of benefits both to the issuer and the investor, right? So let's take a deeper look of why this is good for investor and issuer. We can look at it from two perspectives. First of all, from the issuer point of view, right? So this is a typical fundraising life cycle that all the enterprise will go through, right? Starting here, as a startup company, right? Most of them will be sales finance, right? And then moving forward a little bit, like when the company have prototypes of the product, they might be able to attract some angel investors. And then, you know, the more, and then of course they will have to go through the value of death, right? Whoever remain will proceed further, may able to launch an MPV product, right? And then that will be a good time for them to do a VC fundraising, a Series A, Series B, and so on, right? And there might be a magazine loan at the end, closer to an IPO, right? And then do a pre-IPO run, and hopefully be able to go to IPO, right? So that's a typical growth cycle of an enterprise, right? So how does STO fit in, right? First of all, before going to STO, let's look at ICO. How does ICO fit in, right? That there's a lot of bad experience back in 2017. ICO is actually right here. If some of you have experience with the ICO, if you remember, most of the ICO project at the time is, you know, the owner walking around with like a white paper, right? Some of them don't even have a business plan. So it's a concept, very conceptual stage project without a real product, without customer, right? So it's a very early days kind of venture, right? And despite where they raise fund, they actually go through the value of death, and 90% or maybe more of such early days adventure will no longer exist, right? You know, so that's why the ICO in actually focusing on early days business is risky by itself, right? And for STO, we think the sweet spot is somewhere around here, maybe after some VC fundraising, maybe after a pre-A, maybe starting with A or B, and up to a pre-IPO round. We think that that will be the sweet spot for STO. So that will be the windows for the issuer or enterprise should make use of STO. And from the investor point of view, right, this chart we showed you a breakdown of different type of asset class based on the market capitalization, right? As you can see, the majority, the largest portion is still bonds and debt, composed of $250 trillion. And the next will be real estate. So we're going to talk about real estate later. And the next will be equity, cash, ETF, and then the smaller one is digital assets. And here it tells you on the right-hand side the year of such asset class is being invented and brought to the market, right? So one interesting fact is that since the ETF being invented in Canada in 1990, the Bitcoin or digital asset that appeared on the market at 2008 is actually the first new asset class in 20 years since the ETF. And for the digital asset or tokenized asset as a whole. So what now we are looking at tokenizing this portion of asset class, right? Remember I mentioned earlier, asset tokenization or STO is about real world asset, right? So we are looking into tokenizing bonds, debt, real estate, or equities, right? And then turning them into digital assets. And of course, I think on the next step, there are so many smart people in the industry. Once they get familiar with how this works, I'm sure they will come up with new financial product that we have never seen today, right? So I'm really anticipating this stage 2 of the new product development cycle is happening. But as of now, I think most of the focus have been put on how to tokenize existing assets around this space. But that also bring a lot of opportunity to investors, right? Because traditionally, cross-border investment has never been very efficient, right? Because like, for example, if you're trading stock in a particular stock market in a country, right? It's not easy to sell stock to investor outside of the country, or vice versa for investor, outside of the country. Like, for example, like I give you an example from Hong Kong, right? A lot of you might know this company Tencent, right? Which is, one of the top internet digital company in China. Their stock only trading in Hong Kong stock market. It's not even in US, right? So a foreign investor might want to invest in Tencent, have to open a brokerage account in Hong Kong, right? But if you think about if we create a tokenized format of such even publicly trading stock, and we can actually facilitate a lot of cross-border investment. Of course, everything have to be compliant, but the regulation is there. I don't think it's difficult to figure out how to create a fully compliant solution, right? So that's the opportunity. And if you imagine like full tokenization, investor now will be able to access a lot more interesting investment opportunity around the world in tokenized format. And literally, we can tokenize anything, right? Because the security token is a form of derivative on the traditional asset class, right? So although we speak a lot about the terms tokens, it's just for the convenience of communication. It is not about the token. It is about the underlying assets, right? So the four main class of underlying asset that we can easily tokenize are, first of all, ownership, right? Including ownership of fixed asset or equities or financial assets, right? We can also tokenize cash flow, such as the revenue, the profit, right? Or dividend, or rent, and things like that. We can tokenize debt, like bonds, debentures, and also investment funds, right? Like the REIT, the CIS. We will talk about the private equity real estate fund later on, right? So these are the four type of assets that can be easily tokenized. And for CoinStreet, we offer a one-stop end-to-end professional service for the whole asset tokenization and security digitalization process, ranging from starting from initial offering and also the post-offering. This gives you a bigger picture of the end-to-end service we are offering. So basically, this is all the workflow on the traditional financial system, and these are the workflow from the decentralized financial system. And we are creating a bridge to combine the two, right? And as you can see in this box here, real-world asset security tokens, right? A lot of the focus have been focused on just tokenization. I think there are actually a lot of overlook of how important or equally important is the de-tokenization, right? Because if you're investing in something, right, investor might one day want to cash out and exit and conversion, redemption. So the de-tokenization piece have been overlooked, we think, and we are very focused also on the de-tokenization then, so we can complete the whole investment cycle. All right, so asset tokenization opportunity for real estate industry. Well, first of all, just give you a quick real estate market status update. I'm sure there are a lot of expert and professional from the real estate industry here in the audience today, so I'm just going to be quick. You know, total value of global real estate worth 228 trillion in 2016. This is not an updated report. I think today is a lot more. But on the commercial real estate, we're able to get a more updated report from 2019, right? So it's over $830 billion. And real estate traditionally is one of the very illiquid class of asset, right? But there's a strong market demand for a more liquid way to gain access to the real estate sector, right? So that's why in 2019, according to S&P Global REIT Index, it increased 18.7%, outperformed all other major asset class, right? So investor interest about REIT because of the liquidity. And there's also a strong demand of cross-border investment activities across different regions. So here we have some data, right? In 2016, the cross-border investment, for example, here is shown for the investment funds from APAC investing into EMEA, for example, is 20 billion. And investing into North America is 33 billion, altogether adding up $53 billion. North America, on the other hand, they invested in APAC 16 billion and in EMEA 40 billion. And for EMEA, invested 4 billion in APAC and 18 billion in North America, right? So altogether, total cross-border investment in real estate alone is $131 billion in the year of 2016. I'm sorry that I don't have more updated report, but we will, if we have, we will post it on our website in the future. right? But as you can see, this gives you a good perspective of the amount of cross-border real estate investment activities. Despite there's a lot of challenge actually for doing that, but there's still a pretty good transaction volume. And there are a lot of current pain points on the real estate market, right? For example, high entry price. We probably heard very often complaint from like younger generation, you know, that they cannot even afford to buy a house, right? Maybe even younger couples, people who have worked for decades, not able to buy a home, right? The REIT, as of today, although, you know, is pretty, you know, popular, but it's still the way designed is a very high cost base in terms of exit costs and entry costs, a lot of restriction limitation. So far still more popular around among the high net worth and institution investment community, right? And when we speak about cross-border investment, accessing to global opportunities are very inefficient. And the actual transaction process for cross-border investment is very complex, right? And there a lack of cost-efficient, reliable cross-border post-transaction service provider that can provide a service for you know asset management and property management service. I'm not saying there's no such service provider. It's just now the cost is very high. It's not very efficient, right? And the liquidity, because you know the cross border is not efficient, right? And because of all this challenge above, so now real estate as of today is mostly restricted to local investment, right? So local investment community investing in local markets, right? So because of that, is only with a local liquidity pool, right? So if we can bring and solve the issue of cross-border investment and facilitate such activities as we have seen in the last slides, there's a lot of such activities already. I think we will bring a lot, make it a lot more interesting for the growth of the market. And if we look at the different types of real estate tokenization models for primary issuance, I have illustrate 3 examples here. There are actually more, but I like to focus on these 3 major types today. First, we can tokenize equity of SVP vehicles that's holding a single property. Right? We can also tokenize private equity fund that's holding a property portfolio. We can also tokenize the mortgage or debt portfolio that is financing a property portfolio. On the equity of SPV, very often the way we structure is the original owner of the asset will in the SPV, they will be a Class A shares owner, and they will create a new Class B shares available for the fractionalized ownership from the token investors, right? In this aspect, of course, we have to define the governance rules on the SPV between the Class A and Class B owners, right? We also have to think about, how to handle operation responsibilities such as property management, asset management, reporting, valuation, and things like that. For the private equity fund structure, very typical, we would do a restructuring of the property portfolio, right, into a GP LP fund structure. So the fund will actually own the property. The original owner could be the GP, right? And then we will fractionalize the LP investor, right, as a fractionalized ownership or token investor, right? So those LP investment portion will be tokenized. So people will invest into the LP interest in the tokenized format. On the mortgage and debt tokenization, right? It will be like if such tokenization happen, the token itself will be a fixed income product, right, with stable yield, secure debt because it's secured by the real estate portfolio underneath. Um, this tokenization can significantly reduce the cost of issuing by utilizing a distributed ledger technology. But apart from the initial issuing, it also able to streamline the asset lifecycle management, such as settlement, trading, post-issuing coupon payment, rental payment, and things like that, right? That could be handled by a smart contract implementation. And on the post-issuing side, things that we need to think about is, as mentioned a little bit earlier, asset management, property management. Well, there are a lot of confusion. Some people mixed up, right? So property management actually talking about the brick and mortar, right? Like, really managing the property, the plumbing, the fixture, the infrastructure, the utilities, right? Or, maybe rent collections and things like that. Asset management is servicing the token investor, right? So that's the asset piece is around the tokens, right? And of course, like valuation reports, it would be nice if I'm a token investor that I can receive a report on a regular basis. Because now the property or the real estate is being securitized, right? Just like a REIT, people expect to receive a report to look at the share price of the REIT, and we have to do the same to provide such professional level, right? Although the valuation of the property might not change as much, but we need to still report based on the securities, right? It is a digitized securities. And they also, it depends on the structure. Some deals can be structured with a redemption, right? Such as, of course, the tokenized debt, right? There will be a redemption. But even tokenizing the ownership, right? Either through SPV or PE fund, we can also structure a conversion options in there, right? And of course, the next will be about really exiting the investment, including secondary trading and things like that. Okay, so to wrap up, so I want to reiterate, if you ever concerned whether you will be late to the market or miss the boat, not to worry at all, right? We are right at the start. It is just the beginning. We actually have a lot of way ahead of us that we need to walk towards the building a real success for this industry. There are a lot of challenges ahead, but I think this is just part of the industry transformation, right? We have seen that happening in different cycles, back in the internet days, and cloud infrastructure and things like that. It's just a natural transformation. There are huge opportunity ahead, right? And I like to use an example of, well, for those of you who have lived through the internet boom, right, the internet cycle, I like to make an example. We are almost like at the 2003 of the internet cycle, right? Some of you might remember what happened with 2003. Well, first of all, in 2003, we came out from the crash, right? The dot-com crash back in year 2000. So we are now, if we look back in 2017, which is the ICO crash and the Bitcoin crash, right? It actually went to $3,000, although today is almost 40,000. But we came out from the crash now. And also another important aspect of 2003, if you remember, we are right around the corner of the next big wave and big momentum, which was smartphone at the time, right? If you think about it, like the iPhone, the Android phone, they're coming out in 2003, 2004, totally changed the landscape, right? It brought the whole cloud industry, streaming, like video streaming, and bought service like Netflix and things like that, right? Facebook, the whole new ecosystem. Now, I think we are similar position. We are just around the corner of digitalization, of asset tokenization, digitized securities, right? If we look around the world, they have implemented, different government have implemented sandbox program starting back in 2018. Now a lot of the financial centers, those sandbox program are mature, and we see many companies are graduating from the sandbox and receiving their production license, right? So all this license STO exchange will be coming online this year. A lot of service provider along the value chain is ready. So I think we are ready for the next big jump of the industry. Well, not just all good. We also have a lot of challenge and risk as well, right? First of all, it's a very fragmented value chain. If anyone want to do a tokenization today, they probably have to deal with like multiple vendors, like KYC solution, custodian, token issuing, exchange platform, many, right? But I think that will change, but it's very fragmented industry today. The regulation, although I say is very positive, but there's still, a lot of development to be done. Some of you might heard, in some country, they might already have a regulation that, digital asset is legal, but they're not able to get service from the bank, right? So that's why it's not complete, it's not perfect yet, right? So, but I think it's very positive progress. Secondary trading, the liquidity is definitely not there, but I think it will change very quickly. It's good that now Bitcoin is back to almost well, of course, historic high is good market sentiment. There's no direct relationship, right? But now a lot of institutional players looking at the whole digital asset space with a more positive perspective. Education is very clear. Education to issuer, to investor, regulator, and traditional financial industry institutions. We need a lot of work in improving performance tracking, reporting, valuation, analysis, things like that. Okay, so before we close up, my last slides will be about the opportunity of the future. I like to use another example of the future of STO. I like to compare to YouTube, right? Although there's of course a lot of difference, but just focus on the concept, right? If we think about it, like YouTube actually liberalized the content industry, right? If you think about it, YouTube when it first came out, people don't take it seriously. First of all, is a weird name, right? Like YouTube is a humble website at the beginning. If you remember, the UI is not the best. But what happened is it liberalized the content industry. It offered global audience to local content provider, right? You think about it, before YouTube, if a kid is playing toy at home and make a video and show, he might just able to show it to like 10, 20 friends and relatives in their city or in the town, right? Now they put on YouTube, all of a sudden, boom, they tap into 20 million audience, right? That's the dream of content creator, right? But if you think about it, for STO, a similar concept. There are a lot of good industry enterprise around the world, but they're lacking of efficient channel to communicate to global investor from another country. And likewise, a lot of the investor now, they are not able to oversee good investment opportunity, especially private opportunities at the early days. That's why in the past few decades, all such like future unicorn opportunity, they were being scooped up by only the major VC and PE firm, right? Because they are able to go in and have the efficient channel and vet all this process, all this project, and able to invest. And for the smaller investor, they are only able to invest for LP structure which often a traditional fund might lock the investment for 10 years, right? Like, you know, if they invest in a VC, they might not able to exit for a long time, right? Although the VC will have exit themselves, right? So that's why all these big funds, they make a lot of money. Well, I, I'm not saying like there's no, like the fund itself, they offer a very good value, right? But with the STO, it provides an alternative path, right? For both enterprise be able to tap into global investor, and also for global investor be able to access a lot more interesting investment opportunity worldwide. And of course, this has to be done in a fully compliant platform. It's not just YouTube, but there will be similar kind of platform coming up, right? We'll see already some exist, right? So I think this will liberalize the investment industry, and it will be a big transformation. So thank you. That will be all for me. Thank you very much. This is my WeChat and LinkedIn QR code. If you like to reach me, feel free to scan and add me to your network. Thank you very much. Have a good day.